CARTO has a lot of handy tools, it is sometimes easier to directly use underlying query language SQL to interact with your data. You can access SQL by going to the Data tab and the Layer, and then switch to SQL View. You see there's one line here. I haven't run any query on this layer, so this line means all columns from the dataset are selected. You see there are quite a few columns here, and we can use this select sentence to select only the columns that we need. I'm keeping the ID column, the geometry, name. You might remember we used this in our pop-ups. I click apply, and you see all the other columns are gone. But we got error here. So apparently this is also a necessary column. It contains the spatial information that CARTO needs to properly map the layer. So let's include that as well. Alright. You can also use select to create new columns. For example, the average walking time column here has too many digits. It's not very useful in the pop-up. So let's create a new column that's the existing column rounded to 1 decimal place. Now let's add this average time column to the pop-up instead of mean total. See, that's a lot neater. I also have a column indicating the average walking distance in feet. Now I can convert that to miles. Right, we create a distance column by miles. You see I'm using S here to indicate new column created. I can also use S to change the name of an existing column. Like I can change this to brick 10 to count 10. Now the column name is changed here, but we also get an error because we're using to brick 10 in the pop-up as well. So let's change it back for now. Remember that whatever calculation or renaming you're doing here is not changing the source dataset. It's only changing the layer in the current map. Now after selecting your column, you can also use where to filter the data. So we have only 6 buildings here, but let's say I want to choose the first 3 student halls by facility ID. I apply, now I have only 3 student halls left. I can then use the logical operator AND to add additional condition. For example, I want to know if there is any student hall among the first 3 that has more than 30 GSU buildings within 10 minutes walking. So I'll filter by 2 brick 10. Now there are only 2 left. We'll look at what they are, Patton Hall and University Lofts. Let's add a third condition here. Let's say I want to know which student halls actually had the word hall in its name. Remember to use single quotes here. So apparently we only have 1 Patton Hall. Now if you want to do a case insensitive search, you can use I like, and then you don't have to capitalize the first letter. We can also change the logical operator here from AND to OR. So we're only filtering for observations that either satisfies the first 2 conditions or the third condition. So we have 2 more observations with dining hall satisfying the third condition and University Lofts satisfying the first and second conditions. Now I can sort my query using order by. Let's say I'm sorting it by name. I see my buildings are reordered. By default, it's ascending order. If I want to sort by descending order, I have to specify that. Okay, let's say now I want to order my cases by the number of GSU buildings within 10 minutes walking distance. So it happens to be the same as the original order, but it is properly sorted. And then I can use limit to choose only the top results. I'm choosing the top 1 here, but you can also choose top 10 or top 100 depending on how many data points you have. Now we have only one building left, university left, so remember my research question is which GSU student hall is the most accessible to the rest of GSU buildings. It seems like we have a champion here. If you open the SQL view of another layer that you have performed analysis on, you see that the source code here is read-only. And you see this whole block is what we just did for the student housing layer because this layer is linked to the student housing layer. So whatever we did with student housing is reflected here too. If you want to learn more about SQL and what it can do in CARTO, you can check the CARTO tutorial I linked to below. Have fun exploring!